Hello, guys, and welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. And Happy New Year to everybody. It's our first recording of the year, so happy 2022 to everybody. I'm joined with my co-host, Amy. How are you, Amy? You good?
Hi, Alex. I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, awesome.
I have to say, by the way, I've had a few really nice comments about you and how you are on the show. So thank you for joining the show. You've had a really good positive.
Another hen.
We had a really nice meeting the other day, and it was really nice to hear some of your ideas. We were firing ideas back into it. It's just breath of fresh air. But I'm really looking forward to working with you throughout the year.
It's going to be brilliant.
It really is. And today we're joined by. You're gonna have to pass me that. I'm gonna have to have a look at this. My camera's finally come out. I'll have a look at this in a second. But we did Drawn. You can see the bag just behind me there. Cherie Gerard. But a collective of amazing artists, local artists, some from a bit further out. But it was an amazing 2 days where I got to speak to lots of great artists. I also got to spend 2 days sat next to our guest today, Gary Drew, who you may recognise his artwork. If you just walk through town, you can see this giant flamingo on the Severn Social here. That's Gary's artwork there. And we were going to sort of dive into some of your work. But Gary, thank you so much for joining me for a proper feature episode. We're going to take our time to get to know you.
Yeah, pleasure. It's nice to be here, and it's a good start to the new year.
It is, and it's good sometimes to briefly look back. Okay, what have we done this year? What have we achieved, and what can we achieve next year? And that's kind of like what the philosophy I'm taking. I took a week, the first sort of week of 2022, the first week of January, man. I was just kind of like, oh God, what am I doing with this stuff? And then I just had this sudden spring of energy. Bam! We could do this. Let's do it. And start making plans. Yesterday, I sat on my laptop all day, and me and Amy had planned our events right up into August. Because it's nice to do that, isn't it?
So what sort of things are you going to be doing? It's like
lots of stuff. Like there's lots of events that happen. Shrewsbury's a party place. You know, we've got the 90s revival thing they're doing in June. We've got the flower shows returning. There's Kids Fest in February. We've got the Darwin Festival as well.
The Darwin Festival, yeah.
Is that in February?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that painting's coming back for February, to go to the museum.
Is that so I've got a couple of your bits here.
Yeah, the monkey.
The monkey. Okay,
yeah.
Let's bring that one up. So this is a piece of art that Gary was working on at Drawn. I was watching him make this art, and it's so beautiful. This is the monkey. It's fantastic. So you did this for the Darwin Festival in particular?
It was in the exhibition, and then while I was doing it, they approached me and asked me if I'd be willing to let them use it again in February for the Darwin exhibition.
Nice.
So it was it was like loosely based on Darwin because of the heritage of Darwin in Shrewsbury. And you can see Darwin smack bang in the middle with them on the T-shirt. But it's sort of like a little bit of a spin on it. With the painting, I've actually called the painting Evolution My Ass, as in a donkey ass. I'm thinking that if monkeys had have evolved, they'd have probably evolved and done a lot better job than what we have. And instead of Darwin holding a monkey skull, it's a monkey holding a human skull. So there's a few spins on that. And then
every time looking at it, there's something different, isn't there, to look at? It's incredible.
Yeah, there was what I've done is every job, every business I've worked for in Shrewsbury is actually the logo was on the painting.
Really?
Yeah, so I think there's probably about 8 different businesses on there.
So that's so cool.
Yeah, so you got the Soden Gallery where I sell paintings.
Yeah.
Tutu Bene, which is in the market. House of Yum, which is in the market. The House of Rising Sun. Say Cheese. House of Beauty, the Anchor Inn. So there's all places that I've worked at over the years.
I love that you've done that. Yeah.
That's what I said. You can literally walk around Shrewsbury and see Gary's work anywhere. Like,
I'm sort of like adopted. It's like my adopted hometown now. In fact, I've done more work there than anywhere else in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that through word of mouth, or what's your Shrewsbury connection?
Originally it was through Sam at the Libertine, Sammy Libertine, and I did quite a few jobs for him, and then it's just been from doing his work, and then sort of branched out from there. But he was the big instigator of getting me in the very, the original.
I know a guy. I know a guy that can help you out. This guy Gary, he's really good. Did some work for me. Yeah.
Oh, Sam's such a lovely guy, and he's so popular, and to be honest, he's got to be one of the nicest persons I've ever worked for. He's such a genuine guy. But it's
all right. I don't want to make this the Sam show, but he is lovely, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really, really nice guy. Yeah.
Is this call to get him on the show? Should we definitely get Sam on the biscuit?
Oh man, yeah, he'd love it. But he's like, the only thing is though, when you're with Sam, you feel so ugly. He's such a cool-looking guy.
He's a very natural man. Yeah.
You can never look ugly, Gary. Never. Let's go back to the beginning, though, okay? Because people don't just become artists. Everybody has their journey, right? So,
yeah.
Where do you hail from originally, Gary? Where do you come from?
Hartlepool. I was born in Hartlepool. That's not the reason why I painted the monkey, by the way. That was something else. But yeah, I moved to Wales at a very early age with my parents. And then attended local schools and everything, and after finishing school, went to Wrexham Art College and did 4 years of illustration. Came out with a degree in illustration, which wasn't really for me. I preferred more fine art than illustration.
Is that the college by Wrexham Lager pub?
Yes, you can smell the hops when you go to work.
Yes.
In college in the morning, you used to be able to smell all the hops and everything.
I grew up in Wrexham. I went to Bryn for school, and when we go out at dinner time, whatever, you could smell the hops from the school. Yeah. So you could smell Wrexham Lager brewing away, and then they stopped it, and we kind of missed it. It was weird.
Yeah, no, I think they still do it, but I think they went all digital or something, and it's not the same now.
No, yeah. So yeah, Wrexham, that's cool. So after you get an art degree, right? So you've got this thing now. I've got it.
Yeah.
What from the get go? What do you do with this art degree?
Nothing. From that point on, it's sort of. I think what happened was most of the people that I was in college with headed down to London, and it wasn't for me. I couldn't do London at all. I just couldn't get my head around it, and I was probably a little bit of a home bird, but at that time, and I couldn't do London, and I didn't like the sort of like the lifestyle. They were talking about. It sounded stupid, but the things I remember they were saying about getting paid, and you get paid so half in money and half in speed. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, you get half money, half speed, because you need to be up all night to do the jobs. And I thought, oh, this isn't for me. And I thought, I wasn't enjoying the illustration. It was too strict, and you had to do too much what they told you, and there was no freedom to do what I fancied doing myself. So that was short-lived. I think I went down there for a month maybe, and then never went back again.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And then I tried to do the art that I wanted up until the age of. I gave myself till the age of 30, and if I hadn't made it by 30, then I was going to stop painting altogether and get a proper job. And but during that time, I'd done lots of other jobs to subsidise my painting. A lot of bar work. I'd actually worked at Camp America for a while, and I actually became an au pair in America. I was the first male au pair, legal male au pair.
Really?
I did. I was the third one to apply, and the first one to officially do the full year, and then had a write-up in Time magazine. That was in 1986.
The year I was born. Oh, good for that.
Yeah, and I was a male au pair. So yeah, still in touch with the family.
Wow.
And the guy that I looked after now, he's actually got children a little bit younger than my children. So it's
how
really,
nice.
really bizarre. He's got 2 girls, I've got 2 boys.
And this is what I got about you when we sat, because we did just spend the whole day together just chatting away. And you've got just this rich history of these like amazing interactions that you've had. And I mean, this is a really cliche question to ask, but does it kind of help with your art and how you make things when you've had so many amazing life experiences? You can
I think so. Yeah, because I think when I was doing the au pair, I had nothing to do in the daytime because the child was in school, so I was painting, and I was at a local polo grounds, and I was painting the people at the local polo ground, and it turned out to be Susie Brantes, Sarah Ferguson's mother. And all that time, you know,
Of course it was Gary.
Yeah, but they were really nice people. So I was mixing with all them, and that got me into horses. And then when I came back to the UK, I sort of got involved with the fox hunting, which was really bizarre because I think when people are looking at it and they get all the negative press and everything, there's more to fox hunting than just like going out and killing a fox. The whole time I did it for 2 or 3 years, I was with the fox hunting. They never killed a single fox. It was all about just the ride and just the whole thing about it. But there was the actual fox hunting was pretty much negligible. There was, no foxes were harmed in the making of the paintings. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's quite a delicate subject, isn't it? Yeah.
But the countryside, the colours, the horses and everything were just amazing to paint.
Yeah.
But then I ended up leaving that because that wasn't doing much. And then went into different types of painting. But then I did get to 30 and I didn't make it as an artist, and then started fitting children's play areas. But then while fitting the play areas, ended up painting all the cartoons on the walls, which then changed my style of painting and got me into something else. And I think I fitted the play areas for 2 years and then had to leave because I was so busy doing the painting. But then travelled all over. I think from that point, travelled all over the world then, painting different things. Children's play areas, which then got me into children's laser arenas. And then, as I say, like being Australia, America, China, everywhere.
I always remember I lived opposite a play area in Dawley in Telford, and the garages, the back there, they had this really nice sort of, I think it was Darwin themed. It was Darwin themed, like just huge painting and mural. And he said mural. And it does add something to it. It really does. Like when you've got this play area with this amazing piece of art you can look at and get inspired. Really great idea.
Yeah, I've done a few. I did. There was some in Telford that I worked on. I can't. Rory's it was called, but I think they had a bit of they had a bit of a problem because the artist that designed it originally had ripped off the cartoon characters from a yogurt pot, and it turned out that the yogurt factory was just round the corner from Rory's, and they saw the artwork on the building and went and sent him a letter to say you had to get the characters down.
Oh my gosh, I bet that happens quite a bit though. Because especially when you're working around the world, because I know you have literally just been around them doing artwork. There's some countries that are a bit more loose on their copyright laws and stuff.
I think it's a lot of times I've been to places and people have asked for Disney and Marvel stuff and things like that, and you paint it. But I'll say if that's what you want, I'll paint it. But if they come along and say you've got to rub it out, I'm not. I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
But I think they've been okay as long as you don't say we have a Marvel laser arena or a Star Wars laser arena. If you just say it's a space arena, then that's fine. But I've been lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
Nobody's although I have got a friend of mine who has been chased and threatened to get sued.
Wow, what a scary thing to go through, I imagine.
Yeah, that was for a motorbike helmet for Max Verstappen. So don't pay Max Verstappen helmets.
Yeah. Well, it's very big at the moment, isn't it? He's just won the world. Controversial.
You can't even do his name. You can't even produce his name.
Really?
That's how bad it is. Yeah, they'll have you for putting his name on it. Yeah,
that's insane. That is insane. What's the first instance of when you're like, okay, I'm going to Europe? Did obviously they contact you first? You didn't just walk over there with paintbrushes like, I'm going to paint. You got commissioned and then you went over there. But what did that feel like? Your first time going abroad to do artwork, where it must have felt amazing to be able to do that.
It was great, but it was a lot different as well because at that time, what I used to do was I'd put my paints in a case. So I'd carry my paints, compressor and spray guns and everything in a case and take it on the plane with me and pay excess baggage. And it used to cost me, I remember at the time, it was about £350 for the flight. And it was about £350 for the excess baggage because of the weight that was in it.
Wow.
Yeah, but the company used to pay, and I used to just ship, carry my stuff each time I went. And it's all changed now because I've got I do regular places, so I've got a box. I've got a box I had a box in America, a box in Australia, and a box in Norway, and that's got spray guns in it, compressors and everything, and they just ship it from wherever I am. They'll just ship it from site to site.
That's it. That's brilliant. It's like a save point in a game, in a video
it's
game.
Great because I just turn up and everything's waiting for me.
Oh, how? That's very effective. Very effective. That's really good. So how? I mean, obviously, COVID has been I nearly swore then.
Oh, yeah. Nightmare. That was 18 months with no work and very little pay because obviously I'm a limited company and they didn't pay dividends. So I've had a absolute tiny amount of money. In fact, the money that they were giving me was just about covering my gas and electric, and I've had 18 months of that. So just before Christmas, it all lifted and it seems to have gone. But it was literally everything closed because I'd started selling paintings through the gallery and all the galleries shut. So there was no income whatsoever.
Absolute shock. I mean, like the arts industry on the whole got affected. And this is why we switched to Biscuit. We kind of wanted to help the arts a little bit. And we did have it to get up there and sort of speak to local artists and things going on. We spoke to Viv Kelly, Dance School. We spoke to lots of people that were struggling throughout the time. And our focus for 2022 is going to be community projects and hospitality. And I think that the arts as well, we need to look at like theatres and things, just and artists and people that have really struggled and probably still going to be struggling for the next sort of year or so to, not just get off the ground running, but survive like you had to. Are things picked up now? Do you say that are they leveled out now?
It's to be quite honest, I think what's happened is you've had 18 months where people have obviously not done any of the work that they wanted to do. And then now everybody's like, oh, we needed that doing, and everybody wants it doing. So it has gone really busy, and it's like crazy busy at the moment, and it's some really interesting work. But the thing was with having time off, you sort of like your head's got time to catch up. So you're not just bouncing from job to job to job. You can sort of stop, sit down and think, oh, maybe I could do this. And it's like I've treated myself to an iPad to do book illustrations because I've always wanted to do that. I've also looked at doing prints, limited edition prints of my work. So I've been able to look at sorting something out with that. So it's sort of things that I've been trying to do for the last 10 years. I've actually got time now to sit. I've had time to sit down and go through things and work it out and then decide how to do it. So it's just this year now is putting all of that into place. And then hopefully by the end of this year, it should be a lot different year to what it has been.
it's one of the most interesting things I found about drawing, because I spoke to so many artists, and a lot of the artists I spoke to, and I expected like an artist that couldn't go out anywhere, do anything, just to sit there and just make art constantly, and have this like huge like collection of art they can eventually just bring out. I've got all this stuff I've made during lockdown, but a lot of artists didn't, and I think one of the biggest reasons is they couldn't get out and about to get that inspiration. They didn't feel like it. They were stuck inside, and it must have been difficult for you.
I don't find it because I've got that many different things that I've done over the years. It's like I've got 2 young children, 14 and 15, that are into technology. One of them's into Instagram and doing servers and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm lucky there that I've got him. He's actually teaching me. So I can do things on that, which is opening. I was at the age where computers weren't around when I was starting. Everything's done with your hands. He's at the age where everything's done mechanically and on laptops and on computers and on Procreate and things like that.
Yeah.
So he's in there. He's already doing that with the Photoshop and everything. So I've sort of like been with them and messing around with, and trying different things out and different techniques, and it's sort of bringing my artwork up to the 22nd century type of thing. So it's
it's really important. Your stuff is so beautifully visual. I mean, I've got some pictures. By the way, I got to say, I went on the Severn Social Facebook page to get some of the pictures of you doing work. And whoever does the photography for the Severn Social, hats off to you, because they're an amazing photographer. So here's your work here at the Severn Social.
Oh yeah,
I love that so much. There's a close up there of Darwin. I love that you've got this modern guy's body with the tattoos, and you got Darwin. Like, I love. What did someone design that for you, and you go for it, or
no? It's just we'd had bits, and I was basically just left to my own devices. And the worst thing about it was, you go in with something like that, and you've got like 10 days or something to do it. And then the first 3 days, you're like, oh my God, what shall I do? But then when you get to day 10, you're like, oh, I could spend another month here easy and just keep banging out some really amazing stuff. And you sort of get into it and the mindset of it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't do that. So, but Sam's had me back a few times and just added to it.
I love that. Carry that as the puppet. Is that Marilyn Monroe?
I think it's a mixture of Marilyn Monroe and Madonna.
I love it. I think it's so brilliant. Is this from the Severn Social as well?
Yeah, that's a Severn Social. That's Tapau. What's her name?
Carol Decker.
Carol Decker. Yeah. So the idea of it originally was all the stuff on the wall was associated with Shrewsbury, and Carol Decker lives in Shrewsbury. And Darwin obviously was born in Shrewsbury, so it was all. And I think there was flowers further down, which was to do with the Shrewsbury Flower Show.
And the flamingo for that famous Shrewsbury flamingo, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say a shout out as well, because I was panicking. I was like, I need a picture of that bloody flamingo. I can't find it anywhere. So I put on Facebook, can somebody please say it? So Sam Budden, who's a good friend of mine, sent me from Google Street. So that was really funny. That was really funny.
I just love that. And I love the woman, Gretchen Dan. And I think I feel I know her. And there'll be lots of people in Shrewsbury that feel the same, because the route into Shrewsbury is always Frankwell, isn't it?
Well,
to get anywhere.
But the girl in the photo is what happened was the designer phoned me up and he said, we need some girls to go on the wall. And my friends turned up that night with their daughters. So that's
right.
That's one of his daughters. The other daughter's inside.
I just love it because I watched it. I watched her as she became, because I have to drive that way almost every day. And it was amazing. At first you sort of think, no, I don't get it, because it wasn't complete. And every day I would see a little bit more, and it's like, oh gosh, okay, yeah. And I think her slippers are my favourite part.
You can't see them now. They put a bar there. so you can't.
I know, yeah, and I love her slippers. Well, I still do, or furry sliders, whatever they are.
Yeah.
She's got a real personality, and I think for everybody that regularly drives past there, I would imagine everybody gives her a personality.
Well, she lives in Wrexham. She lives in Wrexham, and she's a really good ice skater. She skates. I think she actually skates for maybe the UK team or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. She's very good.
Has she had her photo taken in front of her? In front of it?
She has. Yeah. The parents came down and took a photo.
Yeah.
I think when she turned up with the slippers on as well.
I just love it. She's just she sums up femininity because she looks amazing, but she's also comfortable in her footwear. I love it.
I have to say, Amy, hats off to you for being in the Severn Social and being in the state of mind where you can actually appreciate the art. Because I remember the last time I was in there, it was a bit of a blur, I've got to say. So you can stand back and really slowly look at the art.
Yeah, I've learned over the years how painful a hangover is. I can't do that to myself anymore. Gary, I want to rewind just a little bit because we were talking about your journey into where you are now. So at what point did somebody say to you, was there a favorite teacher or just an adult who said, you know what, Gary, I think you actually could do something? Because I think you and I are a similar age and you very much had to have a proper career, didn't you? You were either, you became a builder or an accountant or a nurse or a doctor.
No, it was my dad was an engineer and he worked for Pilkington's and he left Hartlepool. He did really well. He got himself out. He was on the docks and everything. Ended up as an engineer. Got to Pilkington's in St Asaph, and then worked there. And then decided it wasn't for him, and that was like a job set for life. And he was like, "No," he says, "I'm not doing that." He says, "I don't even enjoy it." He says, "I can't do this for the rest of my days." So he left and became a landscape gardener and sign writer. And he was doing sign writing from that point on, and he loved doing artwork and things. And he was saying that, just do whatever you want to do in life, because you're working, you're going to be working most of your life. So if you're going to do something most of your life, you might as well enjoy it. He said, it's not about the money, it's about whether you enjoy it or not. So I think he was a big influence on me doing art. I've never, I've scraped by. I managed to pay the bills, and it's always been like that. I've got to the conclusion now I'm never going to be rich. I just get by. I'll probably never retire, but then again, I'm in a profession that most people retire to do, and I've been doing it forever. So I've got a bit of a head start on everybody else. So I've probably never even worked. I retired when I was 16. So I just started painting. So it's, I think he was the biggest influence, for me to do what I'm doing and do what you want to do rather than what other people want you to do.
Absolutely. And I love that attitude. Yeah, Alex knows that's my attitude in life. Definitely.
Yeah. But I don't paint for anybody else. I do paint for me. And I think, like when people, if they say to me that's rubbish or anything, it doesn't offend me because probably most of the time that they're probably right. But everybody likes different things.
The right mind's going to tell you that. Okay, we need to.
Somebody said it a couple of months ago. Somebody did tell me a couple of months ago that it was rubbish, and I was like, okay. And they were like, "Are you? Does that not bother you?"
Yeah, this art is terrible. I'm covering my eyes now.
I just said to him it was his opinion. I was like, it doesn't bother me. And then he says, "So you're not bothered?" And I was like, "Are you trying to get a rise out of me there?" I said, I've been painting for years. Yeah, I said, I've been painting for years. I said, your comment there doesn't even register on my annoyance scale. It's like, doesn't bother me. I said, I don't paint for you. I paint for me.
For the guys watching on YouTube now, I'm going to bring up some of Gary's artwork now for the listeners at home. We'll try and describe them, and this is proof that Gary's work is bloody brilliant. Okay, so we've got Freddie Mercury right here, which I love, by the way. Was that a commission, or did you just decide to paint Freddie Mercury?
No, I'm working with Jonathan at the Soden Gallery in Shrewsbury, and what he did was he came up with a rough, loosely based image and said, like Freddie, and then like we need to involve, get some of these things in there. So really, when you look at these, it's like Freddie Mercury, but it's a story of his life in the background. And different things, and the bit with a cat is that was his cat that he was into, and then there's bits of album covers on there, Fat Bottom Girls and everything. The Queen's Head, which was the Queen. I think there was a link to Diana on there as well, because he dressed Diana up, and they went to a bar, which I think. It's the tavern, something Royal something tavern, and he took Diana there one night dressed as a man, and when he walked in, everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's Freddie Mercury," and not realise that he was with Lady Diana.
Wow!
So there was lots of really cool things, and there was a lot of things that I really couldn't put on the painting, but there is a lot of things on the painting that nobody's noticed yet, so I won't say anything.
This is what I love. Yeah, and this is the most striking thing about you, Gary. Is like hiding things in paintings. I think is such a brilliant thing. I was chatting to Mike Perkins on You Suck the other day. Mike Perkins, who drew, he's a DC artist. He's doing Swamp Thing at the moment, but he's also worked with Judge Dredd and Marvel and stuff. You may have heard.
Yeah. He's worked with me as well.
Yes, now, you can see that.
Yeah.
Here he is. If you look closely, there was a little Batman on the monkey's arm, just above Snoopy's head.
Yeah.
There, and Mike Perkins said that. And I was talking about, can you like leave like Easter eggs in comic book paintings and artists, pages and stuff. And he's like, you can do that. You can hide things, but you got to be very careful, because if like Marvel see you writing penis or something like in a hidden somewhere, you're probably going to get fired. But he said it's a good thing to do.
I've just sent you Mike Perkins drawing on it.
Yes, there we go. I'll upload that now.
He's such a lovely guy.
He really is. He really is a nice guy. I'll upload that now.
How do you stop yourself, Gary? Because I'm looking at all the backgrounds, and there's so much in there. How do you stand back and go, right, enough? Because I've got to stop myself, actually, because I think on that one you've got Charlie Adlard.
Yeah, you got
in the bottom right, and I put it on, and Jonathan said to me, he goes, "That's really cool. You put Charlie on there because he'll be coming to the gallery." And I was like, and that was like, I had to contact him because I hadn't asked his permission to do it. So I had to. I emailed him and I said, "I'm really sorry." I said, "I've put you on a painting and some of your artwork on a painting, and I haven't asked your permission." And he texts back and he went, "Oh, that's really cool. Thanks." So I've not really met him to talk to, but another genuinely nice guy, I think.
He really is. He's a good guy. This is a picture, by the way, for the audio listeners, of Charles Darwin's statue that's sat outside the library. And behind is all sorts of graffiti. And this is my favourite piece of yours, Gary Bo. This is the one I'm going to own one day. And you got Banana Man on there, you got Pac-Man on there, you got the Beano, Dennis the Menace, Charlie Adlard's face is on there. It's brilliant. It really is one of my favourite pieces of yours. But yeah, that's the perfect example, Amy, of you saying, when do you know when to stop? Because there's so much crammed in here. And I bet there's bits in there that, like you said before, that people haven't even noticed yet in this.
Yeah, I think so. Not so much in the backgrounds, but not so much on the characters. There is on the Darwin one, because everyone keeps asking me, what's a beagle with the monkey one?
Yeah.
Oh, and I was wondering that.
Yeah, everybody says to me, why the beagle?
Because he went on the Beagle.
He went on the Beagle, HMS Beagle.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. it's like, yeah.
So,
but there's things I put in there sometimes.
I don't know why it's gone so blurry, but there's a picture there.
Yeah. Have you got a favourite that you've done?
Your favourite, Gary?
What's my favourite? I think because when I was in art college, they said to me, never put the subject matter in the middle of the picture. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And then I used to say to them, if they told me you couldn't do anything, I'd say to them, why can't you do it? And they said, you just can't. And that's no good to me. If somebody tells me you just can't, I've got to paint it then to find out why you can't. So I did a painting, and it was on my Instagram page. I'm not sure if I can find it. And it was of a guy on a horse. And it was I painted him smack bang in the middle, and it was one of those. And I just thought to myself, "Oh, I can see now why you weren't supposed to do it." But I persisted with it. I think I persisted with it for a month, and then I finished it. And I think that's probably one of my favourites.
I can imagine that's you. That's because of you. You told me you couldn't put it in the middle, so it's in the middle.
It's in the middle. You can do a cross. It hasn't actually. On the picture, it hasn't actually come across. I'll see if I can send it to you, but it's not come across as it should have.
Is there while you're doing that, Gary? Are there any artists? Because I'm going to bring up this thing there. Who is Banksy? I love that. Are there any artists that you'd like to work with? Is there like
I've worked with a lot of artists, different artists, but for different things. But I think I wouldn't say I'd like to work with artists, but there's certainly artists that I'd like to have some of their artwork. But I'd rather. It sounds daft, but I'd rather swap. If they like my artwork, I'd rather swap a piece with them for a piece of theirs. But I don't, I don't believe in buying it. Not that I don't think their artwork's worth it. I probably couldn't afford their artwork. But it's, if you had a mutual respect for somebody, it'd be nice to swap a piece or something.
Yeah, a bit of mutual respect there. You doing your own thing.
Yeah, and it's a bit like that. And I won't let the wife have any artwork on the walls unless it's mine. If she sees something that she likes, I'll say, well, I'll just paint it. And it's so if she and prints and things, I'll just say, I'll just paint that. So if she finds something, that's the one. But there's a bit missing, you see. It's squared it off, but it was actually longer to the right, so that it's the same distance, and the guy is literally smack bang in the middle on the original. But it was an oil painting. It's about 4 foot by 5 foot, I think.
There's a big contrast in your work, isn't there?
Massive,
your work.
It's different sort of times, different periods, and what I thought would have sold at that time or period, and it's not always panned out the way I thought it would.
Are you constantly experimenting with different disciplines and stuff then because of this?
Well, I just at the moment now I'm doing a painting at the moment of the cyclist which one is it? Mark Cavendish. So I'm drawing Mark Cavendish at the moment. I was doing the monkey, finishing that off the other week. I'm set to go to Norway, and I'll be painting a laser arena in Norway. Nice. So it's like the work is just, and then in between all that, I'll be looking at doing some cartoon characters for book illustrations. So I've got a lot of, varied styles, and they are varied. They're all over. But then when I do the big oil paintings, I mix all the styles up into one picture.
I mean, I'm thinking about Matt Sewell here because obviously he does the murals as well, and he does the bird books, right? And I didn't ask this to Matt, so I'll ask it to you. And you are an accomplished artist. You're very good at what you're doing. But how difficult is it to go from something on a big scale, even if it's a canvas, to something small in a book? I mean, is that something that's easily transferable? Or
I've never had a problem with it, because my dad, as I say, was a sign writer. So he knew how to expand things and reduce them. And then I've got a projector, and I use a projector massive, and I get slated for it all the time. I get these real artists. Oh my God, I can't believe you're using a projector. That's not real art. You know, and I'm thinking, but all the old masters use some sort of projection machine. All the old masters used it. They all used to project. You know, they had these pinhole cameras and everything that they used to use. So that they've all done it over the years. It's just, I get a lot of my work because I'm fast. And the reason I'm fast is because I use a projector, because it saves so much time. And you can just bang the image on. So really, when you're putting it on, you just get it for the scale and then you go. And then to come back and then draw in a book, it's just second nature to me now. But I've got so many friends that have spent... a friend of mine who was a mural artist who became a tattooist, and then he told me he was going to paint his kid's bedroom, and then 2 days later he phones me up, can you paint this? I can't do it. And he started off as a mural artist, and now he's forgotten how to do that big because he's been doing tattoos and his head's just like that size and he couldn't do it.
So it wasn't a dumb question then. Fantastic.
I can get round it, but I know a lot of people who can't.
Yeah.
You know, I've actually had friends of mine who come to help me, and they've been painting on like amazing paintings on a sheet of A3, and then I said, right, just paint on that wall there, thinking it's common knowledge, and then all of a sudden they're painting something that's the size of a stamp, and you're like, what are you doing? You know, you got like a 3-meter wall, and they just can't get their head around it.
It's something I learned, like, because I mess around with, like, because I make all my own logos and stuff, and design all my own stuff. It's quite fun, and sometimes I can get lost into it. We spoke about that at Drawn as well, how you can just get lost into art. But I remember I was vectoring a logo, so I was zoomed right in, and so I was vectoring all the art. I was redoing all the lines and colouring it all in, and then I zoomed out and I was like, oh my God, you can't even see what I've just spent 3 hours doing. And that's what I'm talking about with scale. Sometimes it's difficult because you can't see what it's going to look like when you sort of zoom out. Like I imagine, like you know, on the Severn Social, like you said, doing a big thing, you think it's absolutely enormous, and you step back and, like you said, it's like 3 feet tall.
It's I think because I've always been limited with time, and it was I had so much time. Usually, what they do is they'll phone me up. Companies will phone me up and say, right, got a great job for you. It's 4 weeks, and this is the budget. And then all of a sudden they'll phone you back and they'll go, oh, the problem is we've overspent. Now we still want that work doing, but we've only got 10 days and a smaller budget. And I was like, all right, so I'll go in and do it for the 10 days, but I've still got to make it look like it was 4 weeks work. And I've
paint the wall black and do one little brick.
I've developed styles now where I can make something look a lot busier than it actually is, and there's more detail in it than there actually is. Yeah. And I think with doing all the different types of things that I've been doing, you sort of like find out lots of different styles and techniques and everything.
I found some pictures of the stuff you do at Turtle Doves, and this is a picture I got off the My Shrewsbury website. So this is the credit goes to them for this picture. There's Cherie Gerard there in the background.
Oh yeah.
This is what you did at Turtle Doves. Is this Turtle from Turtle Doves as well? Is that Turtle Doves?
That's from there. That was you can't really see the scale of that, but if I was stood by it, I probably wouldn't come up to the turtle's belly.
Wow.
It was a huge thing. I think there was another one there with the light fittings.
I couldn't find. Just very quickly, I quickly scoured. But Cherie Gerard, for the people that are listening audio, there's a giant bee on the wall, and Cherie only just comes up to the legs of the bee. That's the size of this thing. It's massive. That
was painted on a scissor lift from a scissor lift.
Wow. And I couldn't do that. It's such
I don't think I can ever stop looking at the really amazing thing I love about your work, Gary, is that 1 minute in one painting, I'm looking at fine art, I'm looking at what looks like pencil sketches. I know it's not, but it looks like it. And then I'm looking at graffiti and I'm looking at cartoon, and it's all in one painting. And that's all from a complete amateur eye, I know, but I love it. It draws you in, and I can see why you get asked so much to do your mural work. It's captivating, actually. I really love all of the stuff. I think if I looked at one of your pieces of art every day for a year, I would still find a contrast and a different technique and a character, and it's incredible. And your brain must be a crazy place to visit.
It's probably a bit like my room, really messy. I got stuff piled up everywhere.
No, it's I can't stop looking at it. I've got your Instagram up on my phone while we're talking, and I just keep falling into your.
Well, there's some big ones there. The ones with the racing cars, they're pretty big.
Yeah, and then I found one of your dog.
Oh, that was that the Doberman.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, that was the dog. Unfortunately, died 10 years ago, and my wife was keep asking me to paint a picture of the dog, and I was thinking, yeah, I'll do it, and I finally did it. And that was probably during lockdown. But it's been 10 years in the making. That one, that was an oil painting, which I'd not really done what I call a proper oil painting for a while, because I've always been playing around, doing more airbrushing and things.
Oh yes, I can see the racing cars now as well.
Yeah.
You guys, if you're listening, you need to go and check out it's Gary Drew Artist. You can see it's a bit blurry, that picture. It's just the way Facebook has rendered it. Thanks, Facebook, as I've downloaded it. But yeah, Gary Drew Artist on Instagram. Give him a follow. And any company, I've got to say, any company around Shrewsbury, or if it's your local town or wherever you listen to this from, if you embrace local artists and give them the the permission and the license to go absolutely nuts, like Turtle Doves have done here, like the Severn Social. If you do that, thank you, because you're doing a service to the art. You're inspiring an artist to go out there and spread their wings, and I think it's a beautiful thing, because you don't see it that often. Everything's so corporate now. So many businesses out there. I mean, it's great to see, world famous photographers taking these things you're going to see in M&S or whatever, but that's fine. But to take local independent artists and go, I'd prefer to use your work than to spend X amount of money on a huge ad campaign. I think it's just a brilliant thing. So
Shrewsbury's been brilliant, though, because you're looking now and they've done all the boxes, the electric boxes around town and that. And it's just little things like that. And I think it is becoming a bit of a cultural art capital, really, around here. I've not seen as much artwork anywhere else as what I'm seeing in Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
But wherever you go, like over at Frankwell, and where I've been down there, and done all the places down there, and I'm booked in to do stuff there next year. Which is going to be pretty awesome. I know what's going on there. I've got the pictures and everything, and it's going to be big. And I just think that again, it's going to add. I think it's going to add to it, and it's great. It's one of those things where people are going to go, and you're going to go to the coffee shops, have a coffee, and then have a look around the town and see all the amazing artwork. And when I go round to jobs in Europe, and they've had graffiti artists going in there and doing stuff, and it's a bit of a thing every year. They have I think it's a couple of days every year where graffiti artists come from around the world, and they just get given a section of wall and paint on it, a bit like what they've done with the boxes. And it looks fantastic. But now people are traveling there to see, to go and see all the artwork, and booking into the hotels and spending time looking around. And it's like a bit of a cultural, and it like with graffiti now, it's massive. It's not like the old tagging and things like that. And it is a proper art You know, so the stuff is amazing.
Well, I mean, like, you got people like Banksy to thank for that. I mean, like, people really, really, if you've got a Banksy painted on your wall, suddenly house value just shot up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But his work is so politically moving as well, so brilliant. And I feel like I remember when I was in Colombia, and we were driving through the city with my wife and her cousin, and there's this stretch of like walls, like where you get like a bit where you can do your art, you can make a mural, spray paint, and it was like a political battle. They would argue their political points via art through these amazing murals, and it's amazing to see. You know, some people would be spray painting about repression, some people would be spray painting about riches and going out there and earning it. It was just so amazing to see, and that's how we should be arguing about things, guys, not on Facebook.
It's a bit more permanent.
True, yeah.
Have you done any mentoring, or is there any sort of plans? Can you do that? Can you sort of teach people how to be successful? Like
when I go to do the jobs and things, people have often said, how do you do that? And I've actually gone on and taught people. You know, like I'll show them. It doesn't bother me. I'll show them how to do it. And I've not really had classes. It's just if somebody comes along and says, "Oh, can you show me how to do that?" and I'll show them. I don't mind. And it's I think at the moment I used to have people working for me, but I've sort of done away with that now, because you spend more time making sure they're working and you end up not doing the work yourself. You become a manager rather than an artist, and I never set out to be that. So as I say, if I'm on a job and somebody wants to learn something, I'll show them how to do it. And if any famous artists want to come along and scribble on my painting, I'm quite willing to do that as well.
I gotta say, that was one of the scariest things I've ever done, Amy. Right, we went drawn, and Sheree was like, "Here's a pen. There's a huge white wall downstairs. Everybody's drawing on it. You've got to draw on it." I was like, "What?" I'm speaking to
it looked okay. I saw that as well. Yeah, it's quite impressive.
He's an amazing little artist. Amazing little artist. You guys
amazing little, bless you.
Amazing artists. And then they were like, "Oh, do something." So I did like my standard cross microphones and a cookie in the middle. It was probably. I thought that was so scary, though. It was
you can tell where it was. There's one good thing, and it looked circular as well, which I was impressed at.
Oh, nice! Thank you.
It's not easy doing a circle.
See, I won a Blue Peter badge for my art when I was young. So, yeah.
Oh, you're the most famous out of all of us.
I was going to say you might be world famous, but do you have a Blue Peter badge for your art?
I tried so many times.
I was so proud of that moment.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever won anything. It's like,
oh, you've won my heart.
You've won our hearts,
And if any of the listeners are listening, if you do ever want to buy me anything and show appreciation for the show, a piece of Gary Drew's art is exactly where you need to go for that. One day.
Yeah.
Why would it be painted rather than to have a painting? It would be amazing, wouldn't it?
It was amazing to see, because like we did drawing over 2 days, and I sat with Gary all day for the first day in particular, and he was drawing little bits on the arm, talking, doing a lot of more talking than art, to be fair, but that's what you were there for, was to inspire.
Yeah.
And then he took it away, and then the next day, it was spray painted. I was like, oh my God, you could see like this huge change in the art. So it was really nice, an honor to see you do that, Gary. So, you know, I really
it's fast though. The spraying is really quick.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. But then I went and painted over what I'd sprayed.
you can see, I know it's a bit blurry, guys, but you can see there's Mike Perkins there drawing his Batman, but you can see that's the monkey there behind him. That's before it's been painted. So it looked like it'd been just done with poster paint. And I was like, yeah, Gary, that's great. But then it looks like that. It's just amazing.
It's just playing with it, really. You just go and you just thinking, I think that's the best thing about painting. You can paint something and you're thinking, I like that, I'll leave that bit. And then if you think I don't like it, just thinking, oh, I don't like that bit, I'll just paint over it.
Yeah.
And it's really good.
Good philosophy of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't like it, just
I
paint
can
over
fix this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you can do that.
Do people ask you to do paint things that you're not very good at drawing, or you're not comfortable with drawing before, and you've gone and done it, and maybe you've regretted it? I don't know if you have any stories like
that. No, because the thing I avoided, I tended to avoid doing robots because they seemed really hard to do. But the thing is, whenever you're painting anything, there's always a technique to painting it, and you've just got to figure out what that technique is. So once you figure the technique out, you're laughing. And it's like glass was always really hard to paint. Sea or water was really hard to paint. And robots seem to be really hard to paint. But then you can probably Google it now and go on Google and say, how do you paint water? And they'll show you a technique for doing it. And you're like, oh my God, that's so simple. And then you do it. And once you know the technique, there's a technique to doing everything. And once you know the technique, and it's not just in painting, there's anything you want to do, there's a technique to doing it. But it's like when you do things, and the amount of people I've seen, and they're like saying to me, oh my God, that's so easy. And you're like, yeah, it is once you know how.
It only took me my whole life to learn how to do it. Yes, easy.
Yeah, and it has. It's like, I don't know, 40 years of experience there to paint that, that 3-minute bit. And and I don't think people understand it. But the funny thing is, I can say to them, here's a brush, you do it. And they do it. Sometimes it's not too bad. And then other times it's shocking. And they were like, what? How have you done that? But there's, with a paintbrush, sometimes it's a flick of the paintbrush, or the way you hold the paintbrush is how you get the effect. But they don't quite see that little technique. But if you show them how to do it, they can get the hang of it really easy. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's so easy. And I was like, yeah, it is. Everything's easy once you know how.
But I suppose that's why I think with everything, sometimes people can be quite surprised at the price of a piece of art, but you're not actually paying just for that piece of art, are you?
No.
You're paying for the 40 odd years or more or less of experience, of training, of learning your trade and your skill. And that's all encompassed in one painting, isn't it?
Yeah,
I was going to say, and that's what makes you great, baby. That's exactly what's going to come out of my lips, and you just put it.
I put it
better. but it's like with you when you're doing your podcast, you haven't just thought, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. You've had to go out. You've had to buy all the speakers, all the recording equipment, all of the the technical stuff, which has probably cost thousands to do a 5-minute show. And then it's like, before you've even started, you've laid out thousands, and people don't understand that. And it's the same when you're painting. Like the painting.
I got this guy's a joke.
You got, when you do a painting, you've got the paint and that. And I might not use a lot of paint on that particular painting, but I've had to buy like liters of paint to do that little bit, all the different colours.
I leave boxes of it all around the world.
Yeah, and that's it, and things like that. So there is more that goes into it, as well as the the time and effort.
Oh.
Yeah,
but I think painters get slammed a little bit because everybody enjoyed painting in school, and they just thinking they don't take you seriously. They think it's just a hobby, and it's like you get friends like, oh, just paint me this, and I could paint it, and it'd probably take me. I could probably do it in a day. And they just thinking, yeah, thanks. And I was like, well, hang on. It's like, how much do you get for a day's wage?
Yeah.
And it's, and I've had jobs. I've gone for a job. I remember I did one job in a hospital, price for a job. And the nurse came up to me and she says, how much is it going to cost? And I told her the price to do it. It was going to be a week. And then she was like, she said, you do realise that this is sick children in here, so can you do it for the sick children? So I said, so you want me to do it for nothing? And she's like, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, I'll do it for nothing on one condition. And she goes, what's that? And I says, you work a week for nothing. And she said, but this is my job. And I'm like, and this is my job. Yeah. And I said, if you do a week's work for nothing, then I'll do this mural for nothing. And she wouldn't.
So, there's a thing, isn't there? this was for cake makers, but it's used in all professions, that somebody will complain that how can a cake cost so much when the price of eggs is only that much, and and so the baker passes them a bag with just eggs and flour and milk and butter, because that's exactly what you've paid for. You haven't paid for my skill, my talent, and my knowledge, and that can be put into everything, can't it? That bag of eggs and butter.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
My dad, I mentioned my dad was a sign writer. I remember him going on a job one day, and he did exactly the same thing. The guy said to him, how much? And he's like, oh, it's going to be £80. And he says, can you do it cheaper? And he said, yeah. And he turned around, he picked a paintbrush up, and he passed it to the guy, and he says, do it yourself. And he says, like, oh. And he was like, well, that's why you're paying me.
I can see why your dad was both an inspiration and an inspirator. He sounds like a cool guy.
Yeah, the stuff he came out with. There was lots of things he came out, which I probably couldn't repeat on radio. That'd be a late night one.
It's important to be inspired, though, and that's what I get from. I said it quite a lot during Drawn that. You artists are superheroes because you do something that I can't do and Amy can't do, and there's lots of people out there that can't, create beautiful pieces of art like you guys do. And the same goes for like musicians and for more accomplished podcasters than me, or people that do surgery, save people's lives, run countries, all these kind of things. Like there are so many things that people bring to the table that you just cannot do. So you need to appreciate artists. And I feel like sometimes we can take things for granted when it comes to art. Things like you walk past something in a museum or something, and you just walk past that painting that's been up there for hundreds of years and was painted by this artist. Slow down a bit, man. Slow down and appreciate what's around you.
I think one of the best things I've seen lately was probably on Facebook, where it says stop buying work by dead artists. They don't need the money. and it was and I thought that's so true. But I think I do like it when I see artists that are doing really well, younger artists and things like that are doing really well. I'm thinking that's really good, because I struggle like mad. I wish I had where I could just chill a bit and do what I really want to do. And not have to do some of the bits I do to spend more time on some of the bits that I'd really like to do.
I like to surround myself with inspirations and things that are little reminders, tokens of things. Behind me now, I did a bit with Spirograph Girl there. You see the little Spirograph in there. And there's Mildred the Crazy Cat Lady, written by Kevin Horak. These are people that have been on my show. The Love Monster there by Jane Pickworth. And if I turn my camera on, I look at this every time I record, and that there is a painting made by my good friend, a drawing by my friend Eric Fluger, and that's Kevin Smith from Ralph Garman, from one of the most popular podcasts of all time. And he made that, and he's my friend, and I get to look at that every time I do a podcast.
Yeah.
Because that inspires me. It's just have those sort of inspirations around you.
We did see your lifeline on your palm then as well, Alex. You're here for the long spell.
Yeah. I sort of like mess about, when I'm doing book illustrations and everything, and I'll do characters and things like that and mold them to get the faces. I got my little guy.
Nice.
So
wow.
It's like, it was like a little bit of a dinosaur thing, crocodile dinosaur.
That's awesome.
It's not a dragon.
It was just a face. I think there was a couple of others, but I don't know where they've actually gone at the moment. I had a few more. So if I'm doing book illustrations and I've got a character, I'll just make it in 3D so I can move it around and get the facial expressions.
And I know we're running short on time, and this is probably one of the last questions, but when we talk about inspiration and what you're talking about right now, are there things that you like to look at in the bad days when you need that little bit of extra oomph? Do you have those days, and what picks you up when you are?
Oh no, I look at stuff continually. I'm always looking at like artwork. I've got on my Instagram, I follow lots of different artists, and the stuff that pops up on theirs, and I'm like, oh my god, yeah, I can I say rip it off, but it's like you do look at stuff. I wouldn't say rip off's probably a bit, but like sort of you look at it and you're thinking, yeah, I like that effect, or I like the way they've done that, and I'll try that.
Not ripping off. Yeah.
But it is really good. But there's so much like art that like what people take for granted. As an artist, you look at it, and it's like you go somewhere. If you go into a church or something, there's so much art in a church. Most people will walk in and go, yeah, it's just a church. But when you're looking at the stained glass windows and all the carvings and everything else, and even high streets, when you walk down a high street, I guarantee you can spot the artists in the high street, because they're the ones walking around looking up at the tops of the buildings and looking at all the carvings and all the windows. And most people in the high street are just looking at what's in the shop windows, which I do as well. But you're looking, always there's inspiration everywhere.
Shrewsbury's a great look up.
It's amazing. There's so much there in Shrewsbury. It's ridiculous. You could, you could spend your whole life in Shrewsbury and never get bored. There's that much stuff. It's so nice.
I remember the first week we moved to Shrewsbury. We moved in, and then it's like snowed. That crazy year where we just had ridiculous amounts of snow. And I remember
Dickens.
I remember this the first time I kind of walked through Greyfriars and over that metal bridge over Greyfriars, and I was just like, my head just exploded all over. Like, this place is amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
It was like a scene out of a movie.
It's just like one of the most fantastic places I've been to, just for the looks of the buildings and the whole, and the people. The people are so nice.
Yeah, got a great podcast as well.
Sorry?
What was that, Amy?
I said you're right. We are.
Yeah. We are amazing. Thank you very much. Right, I think we've gone over an hour. Wow, that's time flies when you're having fun. Eh? No. I love that. I love that. There's something really special about conversation. Just flows and just goes wherever you. Like I said, no notes written today. I've just really enjoyed chatting to you, Gary. Honestly, and you're welcome back on the show. I'd love to you're saying you're doing the mural thing next year. I'd love to bring some cameras and do something with you with that and show you.
Yeah, well, I'm due back to do. Graham from Turtle Doves.
Yes.
I'm going in. I'm painting his kitchen.
Okay.
And you mentioned something about doing cellars at one point, and I've done his cellar, so it might be worth. I'll let you know when I'm over there. You could bob over.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to take a look at. We are going to be doing. We mentioned it on the St. Mary's episode we did with Rob Milton. We're going to be. That's what came today. You saw me collecting a package off my wife. It's my new camera, so we can make proper professional vlogs now, and we're going to be connecting a lot of the sellers together.
So film me crying in fear in dark cellars, because I'm really scared of things like that.
We'll have the professional. This is a cellar in Shrewsbury, and here's Chris. And in the background, you have Amy going, "Oh my God, no! Oh my God!"
I'll have to do lots of bloopers and bleepers on that filming, because I will swear a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
I want to tell you guys about our. Have you got a website as well? Can people buy commissions off you, Gary? Tell people about you. How they can.
There's a rengallery.com, which is RENN gallery.com. And then there's I've also got GaryDrew.com.
Yes, and also as well the Soden Gallery. You can people still buy stuff from the Soden Gallery?
Yeah, Jonathan at the Soden. Yeah.
So who I've invited on the show, I'm going to try and get. For the last 2 years, we've been doing this dance of, you need to come on the show. Yes, I will. I'm really busy. Are you? So am I too. And we keep doing this thing. Well,
I think he'll be easier now, because I think he's got a girl helping out in the gallery now, so he can get more time away.
I think me and Amy, we just have to boot the door down with microphones. Right, sit down.
Well, I'm really, really good friends with Sam Pooley, and we've spoken to you, Gary. So come on, this has got to help us a little bit get in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, Jonathan said he'll come on the show, no problem. It's just pinning each other down, so we'll do this. But I love chatting to Gary. Thank you so much. Listeners, please check out our website, which is the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast.co.uk. All of our content is available on there. You can press play on the website and it'll play it directly off the website. It's got a little bit about us as well. Amy, I need to get some information, some nice pictures of you as well, so we can put you on the website. And that's made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. If you're looking to make a website and you need something that looks great, just like our website, make sure you check out Web Orchard. They do so much. Gary, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much for speaking to us. And Amy, as always, your input is just amazing. I love having you.
Thank you. I've loved speaking to Gary, so it was easy. Yeah,
thank you very much, both of you.
Okay, both of you stick behind. Once we finish this, we'll have a chat before you. But for now, guys, peace out. Take it easy.